Okay, we'll start with this. Former two-weight world champion Natasha Jonas is not retiring yet, but lands Sky Sports gig. Now that boxing is back on Sky, Jonas hasn't fought since her points loss to Lauren Price at the Royal Albert Hall last year, where she dropped the IBF and WBC belts. Still loving life outside the ring, but says it'd take a big opportunity to lure her out. Boxing is back on Sky as a result of their new deal with MVP and what I suspect could be a deal with Zuffa Boxing. Commentator team: Laura Woods, Johnny Nelson, and Natasha Jonas. You can expect them to commentate on the upcoming MVP show, headlined by Carolyn Dubois versus Terry Harper. But as far as her own boxing career that has not yet ended, what opportunity would be big enough to bring Natasha Jonas out of quasi-retirement? She said she wants a rematch with Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor, who herself is entering the retirement stage of her career. I suppose that Katie could cap off her career with a second fight against Natasha, but nobody's asking for that. And their initial meeting was not so close or competitive that a second fight is warranted, though I suppose if there were a fight big enough to bring Natasha Jonas out of retirement, that would be the one. Belts in and of themselves are not going to be enough. Natasha Jonas is past fighting for belts for the sake of fighting for belts. She's already an accomplished fighter. She's been a unified champion at junior middle, at welter. At this point, if she were to keep fighting, it would be strictly about the money. What about Chantel Cameron? Chantel is set to vie for a title in the junior middleweight division where Natasha Jonas was once unified. I suppose that after that, MVP could offer Natasha something to face Chantel in what would be a solid fight, solid for the hardcores, though not that big in terms of marquee value. A fight like that happening is all dependent upon what MVP is willing to offer Natasha. Could turn out that while Natasha Jonas is not yet retired, she may stay that way because there are a scarcity of options, a scarcity of opportunities for her that kick out a big purse. There are only so many fights like that in women's boxing. The Kayla Mayer rematch? Natasha was able to make off like a bandit in Liverpool when she boxed Michaela Mayer, who to a lot of people beat Natasha. I suppose there would be some interest in a rematch, but once again, it all boils down to the money. And I don't know how much money there is in a second fight. Playing hard to get, Natasha Jonas may make herself hard to want. Though she says she's not retired, not yet, she's still open to the right opportunity, and we'll see if it lands. Speaking of retired fighters, or unretired fighters, Errol Spence Jr. was ringside this past weekend for the Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios fight. I saw him touch base with none other than His Excellency, Mr. Turki El Sheikh, and that got me to thinking that Errol Spence Jr., who's rumored to be facing Tim Tszyu in his very next fight in Australia, he's not coming back for the sake of coming back or fighting Tim Tszyu for the sake of fighting Tim Tszyu. That's supposed to be a segue to something bigger, you can tell. Errol is another fighter who is past the point of fighting for alphabet titles just for fighting for alphabet titles. If he's coming back for money. And nobody right now is pouring more money into boxing than Turki El Sheikh. So I think it's not far-fetched that if Errol Spence Jr. can win his comeback fight with Tim Tszyu, he may end up doing some sort of business with Turki El Sheikh, since the guys on his own side of the street at the PBC don't have any money, don't have a broadcast partner, barely any fight dates. It's ironic because Errol Spence Jr. is actually the one who coined the phrase. All that sides of the street talk starts with a drunken Errol Spence Jr. who once said Terrence Crawford was on the wrong side of the street as an excuse not to fight him. Things have changed a lot since then. And there aren't any sides of the street anymore, since anybody who's everybody is doing business with Turki. Anybody from Louis DeCubas to Frank Warren to Eddie Hearn, in varying degrees. Some more than others. Ben Shalom, Tom Brown, Oscar De La Hoya, in varying degrees. Some more than others. Errol Spence Jr. would not be the first PBC fighter to make an appearance on one of Turki El Sheikh's shows. So here, on the eve of his ring return, I think it's not outside the realm of possibility that he might go over there. Or the narrative spinner's gonna spin that. Upon Turki El Sheikh's entry into the boxing space, the same guys who would support Errol Spence Jr. were the same guys saying that not all money is good money. Okay. Unimpressed with the first string of cards that Turki El Sheikh put together, maybe they'll like him a little bit more if he uses more familiar faces, like Errol Spence Jr.
Well, they didn't like it when he tried to use Gervonta Davis for a Devin Haney fight.
They didn't, but that's because Gervonta Davis wasn't on board, and they're on board with whatever he's on board with, so if he's not on board, neither are they.
But what if Errol Spence Jr. is on board in pursuit of a few bucks? He didn't make so much from the sport of boxing that he can continue to live high on the hog forever. He only had a few pay-per-view appearances, and only a few of those pay-per-views, one or two, actually sold something.
Where do you think he's back? For the love of the game? To fight for sanction and body belts? He's back for money. Who's got more of that than Turki Sheikh right now? I'd go as far as saying, don't rule out a move to Zuffa Boxing, since some PBC fighters have already popped up over there. Rayo Valenzuela, former champion Andy Ruiz. Zuffa's acquisition of Conor Benn, which took a lot of us by surprise, Eddie Hearn most of all, opens all kind of doors to all kind of deals, because who would have thought that Conor Benn...
It's the real story.
It's not about whether or not you like Conor or you think he's world class or he isn't world class, is that this is a guy that Matchroom was heavily invested in. They were loyal to this guy, but he wasn't loyal to them, based on what Zuffa was willing to offer him. So what are they willing to offer Spence? Zuffa's already shown they're willing to find work for washed-up fighters like Alexander Vozdik and Rayo Valenzuela and inactive Andy Ruiz. If they could find use for them, they can find use for Errol, who's still a bit more popular.
He'd have to fight as a middleweight.
If we're entertaining a scenario where Errol goes over there, he'd have to fight as a middle because he can no longer make welter, and Zuffa doesn't do the juniors.
They ain't got a 154-pound division, so he'd have to fight at 160.
It's just thinking aloud because thinking's allowed. Errol going to Zuffa is not off the table. Errol working with Turki Sheikh to some capacity is not off the table.
Neither is Floyd.
Not but 1 or 2 days ago, Floyd Mayweather Jr. announced that he will end his retirement and resume his professional boxing career after a spring 2026 boxing exhibition with Mike Tyson, to which Front Row Brian responded, "This dog doesn't hunt. CSI Sports doesn't have any money. If he's gonna fight a real fight, it will be for Turki and with Dana and Nick Khan handling execution of the event."
Yeah, I could see that because CSI Sports, who's reported to own the rights to the old HBO catalog, Floyd is reported to have signed to them, except they don't have any money. So who's gonna finance Floyd Mayweather's professional return? I don't think it's gonna be them.
Front Row Brian must have heard the same rumor that I heard, because he said, "I think Floyd versus Manny 2 on Netflix, it has to be something compelling against an actual real boxer. We've seen Floyd in these clown exhibitions, or go for world titles and break Hopkins' records for oldest world champion." The chicken gizzard circuit, the exhibition circuit, has not been enough to keep Floyd Mayweather's head above water since it now came out that Al Heyman stole what remains of his money.
I don't think he's gonna get it back, so he's forced to unretire. He's forced to fight. As a professional, I wonder, since this announcement, is he still gonna do the thing with Mike Zambides in Greece?
Probably not.
What was that gonna pay out anyway? What broadcaster was gonna pick that up? You gotta figure, given the depth of Floyd Mayweather's financial woes, the debts he's got, he needs a lot of money real fast. And who's got more of that than Turki Sheikh, than Dana White, than Zuffa? In the same scenario where we could entertain Errol Spence Jr. going over there, Floyd Mayweather could end up going over there. I could see it. Zuffa's got a relationship with Netflix.
I was made privy of a rumor that Netflix is interested in staging the second fight between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, and they could do it, but of course, Netflix is a broadcaster. It's a platform. To do the fight, you need a promoter, so Zuffa Boxing could be the promoter of that show. Just brainstorming. But I think that Floyd Mayweather ending up over there would herald the death of the PBC. The very end. The sheer number of PBC fighters that are popping up on the Zuffa side of things.
What did I tell you months and months ago? At the end of the day, loyalty is a 4-letter word in the sport of boxing. And the fighters are gonna go wherever the fight dates are, because the fight dates represent the work. That's where the work is. And if the PBC ain't got no work...
Bye.
Boy, I've been laughing to myself all this time, seeing all the pearl clutching from the bleeding hearts worried about Dana White jerking the fighters. He's gonna jerk the boxers.
The Ali Act.
From the would-be journalists that are supposed to cover boxing, a lot of these guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Now, things are a bit different from when Floyd Mayweather last fought. The pay-per-view model isn't paying out what it used to. The saving grace for him is a ginormous platform like Netflix is exhibiting more and more of a commitment to broadcasting live sport, live events, particularly big-time boxing matches.
No pay-per-view necessary. They're a big enough platform.
They don't need pay-per-view.
Money is the great motivator after all, and what has Floyd Mayweather been motivated by, if not money? Money being the great motivator, who's got more of that right now in boxing than Turki LL Sheik and Zuffa, to where it's not outside the realm of possibility that Floyd may get something going with them. But not just Floyd, Errol Spence Jr. and whatever remains of the PBC stable, which isn't a lot, though just enough to round out Zuffa's emerging stable of fighters, enough for them to start doing more shows.
So I wouldn't rule it out. Zuffa's recent acquisition of Conor Benn heralds that no one is off limits.
It's nothing but love, but I'm excited for the future, man. And that's ultimately it. Excited to make this fight with Ryan. I'm so happy you got to win. I'm ready to push on and make the fights the public want.
Conor, how do you want Eddie to be part of your team now that you're with Zuffa?
I want him in my corner, he's my team. He's my guy. Do you know what I mean?
We've obviously already seen the clash between Zuffa and Maurizio Sulaiman, and we know Zuffa maybe wants to move away from the original belts. What do you think this move to Zuffa means for maybe Conor Benn's #1 position with the WBC?
I don't think Conor's absolute sole principle is money. And I don't begrudge that at all. Some people want legacy, some people want money. I would like a mix of both for the fighters. I think legacy, and I actually had a conversation we had lunch in New York about 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, and I said to him, me personally, to see you win a world title would be the most incredible.
How is it supposed to work where Conor Benn stabs Eddie Hearn in the back but insists he wants him in his corner and he wants him to be on his team? Assuming what role? Eddie Hearn says he sat down with this guy not but 3 weeks ago. That ain't that long ago.
Conor's decision to migrate from Matchroom over to Zuffa was not spur of the moment. I'm going to assume that these guys have been in communication with each other for some weeks, so that when Eddie sits down with this guy 3 weeks ago, Conor knew what he was about to do. And he now says that he would like for Eddie Hearn to remain a member of his team. That is little more than damage control, because by now, he's got to know how people are reacting to this, particularly the British boxing fans. The Americans may be indifferent.
But when has Conor Benn ever relied on an American audience to buy his fights? The ones who make him a star, where all his marquee value is supposed to be, is over there in Britain, and they're the ones crucifying him.
He wants Eddie to stay a member of his team. That's his guy.
No, that is damage control, folks. No more and no less.
Canelo only does David, but I go and fight David, they're like, well, he got beat up. What the fuck you think would have happened to Canelo?
Got beat up.
Kevin Crawford beat Canelo, bro. What the fuck you think David Benavides would have done to Canelo? I could beat every single person that Canelo beat. I could beat every single person that Triple G beat. I could beat every single person that Charlo beat. I could beat every single person that Caleb Plant beat. I could beat every single person that any of these motherfuckers beat, bro. Me. I can beat them all.
Facts. And the thing is, if you match your name with anybody right now, they'll be like, nah, Boo-Boo got that. Boo-Boo got that. But then you be like, all right, let's see the fight. Man, man. He hasn't been in the ring for a long time, man. He got to put himself in position. He already was in position, and y'all still didn't want him to get the fight. He was in position in Undisputed. He was in position for unification bouts. And he was in position for mandatories, and he had people in mandatory position to fight him so they could be world champions. As soon as you're not fighting, now it's, but where's Boo-Boo? But when Boo-Boo is there, you don't feel like he deserve a fight. Yo, the fans, yo, I don't know, bro.
Not even the fans. The fan shit is cool. You know what I'm saying? I like to engage a little bit with the corniness, you know what I'm saying? Like I get it. You don't want me to beat your favorite fighter. I get it. I understand that. But like the logic is kind of crazy when they say dumb things.
That was former champion Demetrius Andrade, who sat down recently with Punch Drunk Boxing, trashing Canelo Alvarez,
Still talking about that guy.
claiming he was blackballed, the smear campaign that kept him from getting huge opportunities. Crawford beat Canelo. What the fuck do you think Benavidez would have done to Canelo?
Still talking about that guy.
I could beat everybody that Canelo, Triple G, Charlo, Plant, etc. beat.
You know, the problem with this is nobody got a fight purse for an imaginary fight. Nobody got credit for one either. So why are we supposed to believe that Demetrius Andrade would have beat all the guys that Canelo beat and all the guys that Triple G beat, having not fought them?
There's absolutely nothing on Demetrius Andrade's resume so far to suggest that he would have beat all the same fighters that they beat. That man's resume is paper thin for a guy who's campaigned at not one, not two, but 3 separate weight classes, and you tell me.
Who's the best guy that he beat? What's supposed to qualify him?
What's supposed to qualify that statement? How long has it been since the David Benavidez fight? It's got to be coming up on 3 years now, something close to it. Demetrius Andrade could have came back whenever he wanted. He could have come back on Pro Box.
But I'll bet you that he thinks he's too good for that.
Too good for Pro Box money? Well, how about making no money? Punch Drunk Boxing, who conducted the interview, classifies him as the most ducked fighter of this era in the sport of boxing.
There's a difference between being ducked and being irrelevant. Demetrius is the latter.
The fighters that you're talking about have been fighting better and more decorated fighters than you are, higher rated fighters than you are. They're not ducking. You're just irrelevant. You offer no real incentive for them to give you the time of day.
It's reality. I know Demetrius doesn't want to hear that,
But I'll say it again in case you missed it the first time. If the fighters that you're talking about have been fighting better and more accomplished fighters than you are, that's not ducking. And while they were fighting those fighters, what were you doing?
I'm not just talking about now. I'm talking about all the way back when Demetrius was at 154. Who did he fight at 154? Who did he fight at 160? He wants brownie points because he fought David at 168.
Buddy, that's the only good fighter you ever fought. The only good fighter you fought your entire boxing career. You want brownie points for that?
Because you lost?
Canelo Alvarez was a unified champion at 154 and 160. What were you?
Canelo literally fought more reigning champions and more top contenders at 154 and 160 than you. So while he was doing that, what were you doing?
While he's becoming a unified champion at middle, and so is Gennady Golovkin, what were you doing? While Canelo Alvarez moves up to super middle and does the same thing, becomes undisputed not once but twice, what were you doing?
And this is what I'm talking about.
I don't laugh or lap it up for these boxers. There's a difference between being avoided and being irrelevant. Because if these guys are still fighting solid fighters and world champions and unifying belts, they're not scared to mix it up. You are.
Because you's the one that ain't done that.
All these guys are so much more accomplished than you are because they're the scared ones? Give me a break.
Stop pretending you're the serious Charlie Burley. Because you're not.